Alright, so today we're going to do bearing replacement. This is a late model Bravos washer. This is one of the Oasis designed machines where it's hard to tell, but this one, as the washer fills, the actual outer tub starts to float, disengaging the impeller from disengaging the outer spin basket from the drive assembly, and that's what causes it to agitate. So this is a really common problem with these machines. There's a bearing kit available. I'll put a link in the description if you guys need it. But today I'm going to show you how to do it step by step. Okay, first step is to remove this cap, and you'll find a little tab where you can just pry it right off. Remove this bolt. And hopefully the impeller will just slide right out like that. Move it to the side. All of these Phillips screws. I'm going to remove this, and then this other white gear. This one's not that nice. So normally these come out pretty easy, but it only has easy to find. Okay, so the tub is ready to come out. We need to lift the top, and then we can remove the upper tub ring, and then we can remove the tub and then start on the bottom. Oh, I can't find my spatula now. Awesome. Okay, so you want to secure the lid. I use painter's tape. Sorry for the low light, but there's a screw. You'll see a green bracket right there, and there's another one on the other side. So you just want to undo just the top screw on both sides. Put those screws aside. And then you'll notice that the top will slide forward a little bit. Once you have the top slid forward, you should be able to find a nice little sweet spot where it'll just lift up nice and easy. I'm going to put mine all the way over and let it sit like that. There's one hose here that you need to undo. Once you get that undone, you just unsnap the tub cover. Next step is to just lift the tub right out. Now sometimes this will come off really easy and sometimes it won't. So this one looks like it's going to slide right out. If you can't get this tub out, there's a special tool that you could buy. And this is basically a tub puller. You screw some screws onto the bottom of the spin basket, and then you lock this in, and then you just turn the screw, and what it does is that it pushes against the shaft and then pulls the tub right out, and it makes it really easy. So if you have a stuck tub, this is the tool that you want. It's called the Cabrio tub puller, and it's all it does, but it's very useful if you ever have a stuck tub. So we're done with the top for the moment. I'm going to put some towels in to soak up some of that water, and now we're going to work on the bottom. I'm going to take a 1/4 inch hex bit, and you want to remove this rotor. Move it to the side. And then the next thing we want to do is remove these 4 bolts. These are 3/8 drive. Just wiggle it a little bit, and it should pop off. This plastic cover just moved to the side. This ring just moved to the side. Now to undo your harness, unplug this, kind of get it disconnected from the rest of the harness. You want to undo this tab, and then just move this to the side too. Now we're ready to pop the shaft off after we remove this last bolt right here. Channel locks. Now this one's really loose. If this is stuck, you could grab a pair of channel locks on the shaft, because you're replacing the shaft anyways, and then just undo this bolt. Discard that. Now we're going to take a rubber mallet and you're just going to, and you're done. The next step is this shaft that comes with the Cabrio bearing kit. As you can see, this one's very well used. And what you want to do is push the shaft through, and then now you got to pound the front of the top bearing out. And that's it, we got it out. So the next step is that we're gonna leave the washer on its belly, and we're gonna crawl through the lid a little bit and pop this bearing out. And I'm gonna do that on the other side so you guys can see. The next step is to take a little wire wheel, put it on your drill. You want to clean up where these bearings sit. That's pretty good. I'm going to do the same thing on the inside. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to set up the bearing tool to set in the bearings. Okay, this is the bearing kit. The part number is W10435302. When you open it up, it has instruction manuals, 2 sub-packs, and then this is the shaft. Okay, so this is what you get. You get a tube of adhesive, which is absolutely worthless. This is dryer adhesive. I don't use this stuff because I think it's ridiculous that they would use dryer adhesive on a washing machine. So I use my 3M 800 sealant, which is right around here somewhere. This is the stuff that I use. This is 3M industrial sealant 800. This is the best stuff for washing machines, and I swear by it. So I'm going to use this instead of the dryer adhesive. Now, one thing you might want to do is save this adhesive, because you can sell this on eBay for I believe they go for about $10 or $15. So you know, you get a little bit of your money back, and you're actually using a better product. So to set up your tool, just to clarify, guys, this tool does not come with the bearing kit. You do have to purchase this bearing tool separately. I'll put a link in the description for those of you who want to purchase it.
but it does not come with the bearing kit. So you have to buy the bearing kit and this bearing tool separately.
You want to make sure that this nut is pretty much at the end, and then you want to unscrew this arm and make sure that it's pretty close to that. Then you want to undo this back screw, move to the side. This is your bearing, and then this is for the bottom half. You want to take your large washer, which is the 6006 bearing, and set it down until you're pretty much flush with this pressing tool. At this point, I'm going to put this into the top of the washer, and I'll show you how to do that. And then we'll set everything from the back, and then we'll get it placed in. Right after, I'm sorry, maybe before we'll put these, this is a spacer that kind of goes in between the bearings, and it kind of all is going to go together like that. So you're going to have your top bearing, your spacer, this other little washer, and then the bottom bearing. And then you're going to put this guy in, and you're going to want to set this bearing in like that, and it should get everything to set in nice and tidy, just like that. That's exactly how you want to do it. And so the trick is that once you get all this set in, you take this nut and you're just going to crank everything down, and it's going to push and seat the bearings into their respective spots. So this sleeve and ring, I think you could put in from the bottom. Yeah, you totally can. So we're just going to get this set up for now, and then I'll show you how to do everything from the back end. Okay, we're in the belly of the machine. So we're going to take our tub bearing assembly thingy, and we're just going to slide it into the hole. And then this arm is going to sit on this ledge right here. So, sorry, it's really hard to do one-handed, but that's it. That's how you get it in place. So this should be like kind of, you know, maybe sticking out just a little bit, and you know you're in the right place. And then this arm should be touching against this little ridge right here, and that'll keep everything in place. So when you slide it in, it will not rotate. It'll just stay put. So let's go back to the other side now. Okay, so now we have just the shaft of our tool sticking out. And what you want to do is you want to insert the collar. And then you want to take your bottom piece, slide the bearing on, and then take your washer. I don't think it matters which side. This one has a little bit of a rounded edge, and then this side's a little bit of a flat edge. I like to put the flat edge against the bearing. I don't know why. I don't think it really makes a difference. And then you want to hold the shaft a little bit and get it slid in, nice and even like that. Hold the shaft again, get your bearing in, and then take your nut and start threading it through. Okay, so it's snug now. Now we're going to take my channel locks, and we're going to tighten it all down and seat the bearings in. And then you'll get some serious resistance, and that's when you know that the bearing is seated. So then you want to unloosen it. Pull your stuff out, and you see if I could show you. You see that lip there? That bearing is seated perfectly, and that's the beauty of that tool. It sets it at the perfect spot, and you don't really have to think too hard about it. So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to push this through, and then the next step is that we're going to set our shaft through, and then we're going to reassemble the bottom end. So I'm going to go on the other end and put the shaft through, and then we're going to finish reassembling the bottom half of the washer.
just so you guys know, this is the top of the shaft, and this is what's going to be sticking out of the washer, and this is the bottom half. And the best way to tell is with these threads, because that's where that nut is going to go, is on the bottom of these threads. And then this metal part, I don't know if this is stainless or just a coated steel, but this is what the seal actually rides on. So it's really important not to reuse your old shaft. If this mating surface is scored or grooved in any which way, you have to replace the shaft at that point. So I know there's a lot of kits out there that just offer the 2 bearings and the seal, and those are totally fine as long as your machine is not in bad shape. As long as this surface right here is good, then you could generally reuse the old shaft, but it has to be in really, really good condition. If it's not in good condition, don't take a chance. Just buy the kit. They're not that expensive, and do it the right way. So, okay, here we go. So one thing that's kind of a pain in the butt is you'll notice the spacer ring has dropped a little bit and it won't let the shaft slide in all the way. So, and it's all pretty tight in there, so you kind of have to take a screwdriver and kind of move it in place. I can't do that without 2 hands, so let me see if I can get it straightened out. I think I might have got it. Let's see. I think it's gonna slide now. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so you know you're in all the way when you see these bearing or these threads are sticking out a little bit. Sorry guys, my light is not that great, but your threads are sticking out. So now we're just going to reassemble everything. So you're going to take your new nut, and out. This one does have red Loctite, so it doesn't back out again. So we're going to take that. This is definitely where you want to be really careful, because now you don't want to mess up this shaft. So just be careful. You could grab it with channel locks, but maybe you might want to put a rag over it so you don't mess up the threads. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this scrap towel and I'm just going to kind of wrap it. So don't kill it, guys, just snug. Tight to snug. There's no, specific torque value, but you know you're good when there's barely a thread sticking out and you're pretty much nice and snug, and everything should rotate relatively free, like with your hands. And it might be tight the first revolution or two. Just don't worry about it. It'll be fine. So that's it. Now let's reassemble. Now, this is where I'm, kind of technically making a mistake, but I'm very careful about this because I've done this 1,000 times. Before you start putting this stuff together, you need to go clean your hands. Some of the older model Oasis Bravos washers, they have a different type of RPS sensor, and it had a very inferior connection. And so just by touching it with your greasy hands, you'll ruin the connection of the RPS sensor, and you'll instantly start getting codes after you do this bearing job. This is the updated harness that has a better connection, so we don't have to really worry about that. But still, you do need to be clean when you're doing this. Just wash your hands or change your gloves if you're wearing gloves, and just make sure that you don't get grease or anything into these connections, or grease anywhere for that matter. If your washer's been leaking for a long time and all these connections are dirty, just wipe what you can with a very dry, damp cloth, like nothing too serious. Don't spray it down with water or anything crazy like that. Just wipe off the surfaces that you can. You don't really need to. As long as the connections are clean, then you should be in good shape. So just do that and you will be fine. Now, if your machine has been leaking for a while, you might have to clean a little bit on this rotor. I already did, but don't get too serious with this either. Just take a very not wet, just kind of like relatively damp cloth and just wipe the surface off. You don't want any like metal pieces or goo or anything on these magnets, because the tolerances are very close and you'll start to get a squeak or grind or other weird noises that are not cool. So again, with a almost dry damp cloth, you could kind of wipe off here and get any sludge that may have built up. You won't get much, you're just going to get a little bit like that. Doesn't have to be super clean, it just has to have no foreign contaminants. And if you want to clean up here just a little bit, it's totally fine. Okay, so now we're ready to put this rotor back in. Snug, tight, snug. Don't kill it, you're going to break the bolt and then you'll be sad. But when you get everything good, you should be pretty good. And you'll feel the motor starting to give a little resistance. And if you actually spin this fast enough, you'll start to create electricity, which is kind of a cool thing with these. These actually can work as a generator or as a motor. So, okay, so we're 100% done with the bottom. I'm going to move my tools out of the way, and then we're going to stand the machine back up, and then we're going to start the assembly of the seal, and then get the inner spin basket back in and get everything put back together. So this would be a really good time to clean up the tub, which is what I'm going to do. Now, I'm not going to do like a real bang up job because most of this is just scale. It's not like gooey, mildewy stuff. So I'm just going to definitely clean up very good around the seal. And I'm going to get some of this big stuff, especially like the fabric softener that is kind of stuck on the side of the tub. But I'm not going to get this to perfection because this is not mildewy goo. It's just kind of more like calcium, and it doesn't hurt anything. You don't need to get, you know, that in depth with it. So let me clean it up. Okay, so we're ready to put the seal in. I'm going to show you how to get that ready. First, I'm going to wipe my hands off a little bit. So this is where you're going to use this plastic pipe that the toolkit came with. You're going to use this grease that came with the kit, and then hopefully you have the 3M 800 sealant. I'll put a link in the description for this. You can order this on Amazon or eBay. It's not expensive. It's about 15 bucks a tube. Totally worth it. If you don't have it, the dryer glue is probably fine. It'll be okay because it, like I said earlier, it never really leaks on the outside of the seal. Most of the leak happens from the inside of the seal. So my little trick is I use this entire tube of grease, and I do it as follows. So you take this is the underside of the seal, and I like to fill it up with grease. Like so. Now you want to take the lip, the inner lip seal, and you'll see there's a little kind of a groove here, and I stick the nozzle in there, and I put a little bit more in here. And don't be afraid to put too much grease. You could always wipe it off if you do put too much. And then this last inner seal, I'll put another bead. Like that. So you got a pretty greasy seal. Now I'll put this to the side for 1 second. Now the remainder of the tube, I'm going to fill it up on the inside of the shaft. You want to make sure you don't get any on the outer ring, because that's where the glue is going to go. So just take your grease and clean off the tip if you got any on it. And you want to do it, sorry about that, as so. And just get a nice little bead on the inside. Okay. And that's almost the whole tube. I could probably get a little bit more in there, but again, you don't want to risk getting any on the outside. So, you know, just use as much as you feel comfortable. Now, what that does is it just adds another layer of defense. So, inevitably, when this seal does fail again, and it will, because it's the same design as the old seal, when the water does actually creep through, you're going to have this barrier of grease that'll act as a water shield to protect the bearing. And then eventually, when that grease fails, you still have the rubber seal on the bearing that will act as a third barrier, you know, further prolonging the life. But ultimately, it will all fail again. There's really nothing you could do about it. So we're going to take the, you know what, I guess for this test, I'm going to use the dryer sealant. So this is the stuff I recommend using, but I'll use the dryer sealant this time, so that way, this adhesive is like a dark brown type of sealant. And this is where it gets a little tricky, because you kind of have to hold it by the edge like this. And you don't have to put much, just a small bead all the way around. They give you this huge tube of glue, and you barely use any of it. So that's it. You just want to create a barrier. Okay, now this is where it gets really tricky, because you don't have much to grab on. But now you want to set the seal down, and then we're going to press it in with our pipe. Now most of it, you should be able to get it down just with your hands, but then you want to take this pipe and really push down on it. And this might require a little bit of force. And when your seal is good, it'll be just either flush or slightly below flush with the lip of the tub. This one sat a little bit lower. It's a little bit below flush, but that's okay. It's in there. And the last step is to take this dryer adhesive and just kind of smear it down a little bit. Now we're going to let this dry for about 10 minutes, because that's all this dryer adhesive needs. And meanwhile, I'm going to show you how to prepare the tub and get it greased up, so that way you can set it in and you won't have any problems in the future. Okay, so we have the inner spin basket. Now what we want to do is we want to clean these mating surfaces here. You don't have to worry too much about the sludge here, but you know, if you want to wipe it off and get it out of there, that's totally fine. Once I finish these bearing jobs, I typically run these washers twice. I run them once on a quick cycle or whatever short kind of express wash, just to get all the grease out. And then the second one, I will do an actual self-clean cycle to really get a deep clean and get the last of the, whatever grease or goo that may have lived through this job. So you see this is basically like mud. And so you want to just clean it up with a towel. A dab on my finger, and I'm going to just scrape it on the inside of that pocket. Now that pocket, in my opinion, acts as a little bit of a reservoir for grease, because if this tub can't slide up and down this shaft, it won't work. So it's like the very principle of this machine. So, and then finally just take a little bit and rub it on this sleeve bearing here, and then flip the tub over and do the same here. Now we're ready to put the basket back in. Okay, so now we're ready to put the basket back in. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take what little is left of this grease, and I'm going to rub it on this shaft here, just to help with the tub sliding down nice and easy. And definitely don't be afraid to put a little bit on these spline shafts, so if you ever have to take that agitator out again, hopefully it won't give you too much of a hard time. So now when you took this apart, you probably would have noticed that this metal washer fell out. This just goes on the bottom of this white part. That's all set. And to give it a little bit of a test, what you could do is put your fingers underneath this spin basket, and you see you're still lifting up very nice and easy. Now once we install the agitator, it will only lift up a certain amount, and you want to test it one more time after you get the wash plate in. Now when you lift it, it only lifts a certain amount because the wash plate prevents it from coming all the way out again. Just reconnect the washer again and pat yourself on the back because you did a great job. As you can see, my washer is now working perfectly again. I usually run it at least 2 times, once on a very quick cycle, which is this one, and then I will typically run another self-clean cycle. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Good luck with fixing your machine. I hope you get it fixed. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.